Hi, welcome to the Sterling Heights Public Library. My name is Brent, and today we're making fish. I know, we'll talk about the ingredients here. So we're going to do kind of a take on teriyaki today. So I have a whole side of fish here right now. This here is steelhead trout. You could use salmon. Basically, steelhead is just a large rainbow trout that's been out in the big water. So we're going to use this. Our sauce is going to be a base of soy sauce. We're going to put some brown sugar in it, some little bit of garlic, some ginger, a little bit of sesame oil, and we're going to garnish it with some sesame seeds and some scallions. So when you buy a whole side of fish like this, it's typically going to have the skin on it. So we got the skin over here, and there's a couple ways you can handle this. You can cook it with that on there and then just take it off when it's cooked. I am going to show you how to skin this right now though. And one other thing, when you're dealing with salmon or trout, you want to kind of watch this belly flap here a little bit, because there's a little bit of fat that tends to run along the edge of that. And you don't have to trim that off, but I like to. So to skin this, we're going to turn it around so that you've got your dominant hand with your knife and the tail end towards your weak hand. So I'm right-handed, so we're going to do it this way. So I'm going to hold down this end, and I'm just going to take a little bit at the end here, go down to the skin but not through it, and then turn that knife so it's parallel with my board. Get a little bit started, and then hold the skin, and just kind of wiggle that knife back and forth and pull with your offhand. And that just slides right off of there. Now, do you want a sharp knife? You do. But you want to be a little careful. If your knife is too sharp, this can actually be a little challenging because you cut through the skin. So I've got a nice piece of fish here, skinless. This here has already got all the pin bones out of it. If you're catching your own, you may have to pin bone it, but most of the time if you're buying commercially raised stuff, usually most of the bones will be out of it. But in salmon and trout, there is sometimes a little line, a little lateral bones along and through here. If you run your finger along here and you feel anything sharp, best way to get those out is with a pair of needle nose pliers. You just grab the tip of it and just pull to come out. So to make our marinade, I've got a half a cup of soy sauce in here. You can use low sodium if you want to, but I'm using regular. I've got 1 clove of garlic. I'm going to go ahead and mash that into a paste. Crushed it, chopped it, and then used the edge of the knife to just mash that into a paste. I'm going to put that right in the soy sauce. Got a little bit of ginger here. You can use a spoon to scrape the skin off of that most of the time. Works pretty well. We're not going to use a huge chunk of this right now, but just get the skin off the edge of it. I'm going to need about a teaspoon of this grated. So I've got a microplane grater here. And I'm just going to go ahead and run that on the grater until I've got, a lot of this is going to collect on the back side of the grater, so you can kind of see where that's starting there. That looks like about enough. So I'm going to take that, tap that right off into our marinade. We're going to add a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Does that sound like a lot of sugar? Yeah, but it's kind of how you get your glaze. Go ahead and stir that just a little bit. A little bit of sesame oil. Asian sesame oil is from toasted sesame seeds, and it's kind of brown color. This stuff's got a pretty strong flavor. A little bit goes a pretty fair way, so we're only going to use about a teaspoon of that. And that is going to be our marinade. So I'm going to go ahead and just stir that together until everything is combined. Got my fish here in a Pyrex baking dish. And I'm going to take several spoonfuls of this and just kind of lay it on top of here. We're going to do a brief marinade on this. We're not going to let it sit for a real long time. One thing you got to watch with fresh ginger is if you leave it in a marinade for too long, there's an enzyme in there that can get into the protein of your meat or your fish, and it compromises it if you leave it sit too long. So if you're using fresh ginger, don't marinate for more than probably an hour or so. So we've been marinating this for about 15-20 minutes, and before cooking it, I am going to, we're going to bake this one today. This does just fine with sauteing and also with grilling, but today we're going to bake it. So I'm going to go ahead and slide that out onto the tray. You notice that I hit it with a little bit of spray. I'll go ahead and just kind of pour that marinade back over the top. And we're going to pop that right into a 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes. This particular piece of fish here is just a little over a pound. A bigger piece may take a little bit longer. So we're out of the oven, and our doneness is just about there. I'm going to take a brush, a little bit more of this sauce. We're just going to kind of dab that on. It's going to help with our glaze a little bit. I'm going to pop this back in the oven for just a couple more minutes to set that glaze. Before I do that, I'll go ahead and dust it with these sesame seeds. Now these are already toasted a little bit. You don't have to toast them in advance if you're going to be cooking it like this, because they will toast a little bit in the oven, but it kind of brings out the flavor a little bit. So we're going to pop this back in the oven just to set the glaze for about 2 more minutes. So that glaze is nicely set now. That's going to help the sesame seeds stick. We're going to go ahead and garnish it with some finely chopped green onions. So if you want to serve this as a whole side and kind of do it family style, you can just kind of get yourself a long spatula and slide that right onto a plate, and you can serve it like this, or I'll show you how to do it on a plate. So I've got on the plate here, I've got some plain white rice and a little bit of wasabi coleslaw, and we're going to just go ahead and use the spatula to get a piece of this off of here. Kind of see that that's cooked all the way through. I'm just going to lay that right up on here like this. So there's our sesame soy trout. So it's a little bit of a play on teriyaki, but not exactly a classic teriyaki. Give it a shot. It's good stuff.